Be honest, you forgot this movie was coming out too. Hello friends, and welcome back to the Brockopp side. Today we got ourselves a movie review of Slender Man, directed by Sylvain White. So, one night in a mysterious small town that nobody bothers to tell you the name of in this damn movie, 4 teenage girls decide, just out of complete boredom, to summon the Slender Man thanks to a video they found on a Slender Man website. And then a few weeks later, one of the teenage girls goes missing, the others start to get these mental images of being attacked by Slender Man. They're slowly going crazy, and just blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. So I was rather interested in this movie because the Slender Man character himself has kind of a very interesting history. You know, he started out as this piece of artwork that somebody made for an online art contest, and then it grew in mass popularity. A bunch of people came out, started writing fan fictions and, you know, stories and lore, and then led to a couple successful video games. And then, of course, there was that awful incident a few years ago where 2 teenage girls tried to stab their best friend as part of like a sacrifice to Slender Man that was all over the news. And of course, this movie caused a lot of backlash amongst people that were closely involved in that incident, like the parents of the child that was attacked. And for a while there, it seemed like this movie was just gonna not exist for a while, because we got a trailer earlier in the year, but then we didn't hear anything for several months until like a week or two ago when another trailer came out. And then all this stuff coming out about, you know, how the studio couldn't agree how to deal with this movie. You know, were they gonna make it, were they gonna give it the blockbusters treatment, you know, give it a big marketing campaign? Were they gonna go really low level? Were they just gonna, you know, were they just gonna give it to Netflix? So a lot of that is very disconcerting when coming into a movie like this, but I was still interested in it because, well, my thinking was it's either going to be a nice, unexpected gem, you know, one last little decent movie for the summer, or it's gonna be a complete turd. Which one do you think it is? So in my past couple of reviews, I feel like I've been just heavily praising these movies, you know, Mission Impossible, Christopher Robin, 8th Grade. You know, I had pretty much nothing but positive things to say about those movies, you know, and I just kind of feel like I'm in too much of a good mood right now. I just want to go see something terrible and talk some shit. Well, last night I went to see Slender Man, so let's talk some shit! But before we get into that, let me just give you a couple of positives about the movie. Yeah, there are a couple of things about this movie that I think do fall on the positive side. You know, it's got some decent cinematography in there. You know, I like how some of the shots are composed. It's got some nice foreground, midground, background, you know, and there's some nice atmosphere to the movie, you know, so at least it's decent looking, not great, but decent. And also the main leads, the 4 teenage girls, I thought did pretty well, especially Joey King. Their performances are nothing Oscar-worthy, but I do think they have some good moments, like in the scenes where they're being attacked by Slender Man. They have to scream, they have to be in true terror. You know, I could buy into that much, so, you know, you know, like I said, decent cinematography, decent acting. But that's enough for that. This movie just has no idea what to do with the Slender Man character after he's been summoned. It's just an endless stream of these girls getting terrorized mentally by Slender Man, driving them insane. It's just scene after scene after scene, over and over and over again. They just drag on for so long. There's like, they just couldn't think of anything more interesting to write a script with than just, oh, this girl gets terrorized here, this girl gets terrorized here, this girl gets terrorized here. Let's just do that at least 65 more times until we get to the conclusion. And that leads me to another big problem. It's not scary. You know, a movie like this, it's supposed to scare me. I at least wanted to come out of this movie feeling creeped out, a little unnerved, a little freaked out, but I wasn't scared. They didn't even try. You know, this movie's definition of terror is basically girls screaming at the top of their lungs, and some hits and riser sound effects. And on top of that, guess what they have? That's right.
Jump scares.
Yes, this movie employs everybody's favorite horror element, the jump scare. But not just the jump scare with a BWAM sound effect just to make you jolt. And on top of all of that, it gets even worse. Not only do they do the jump scare, But they do the fake out jump scare, you know, when somebody thinks a monster or a serial killer is gonna come up behind them, but it turns out just their friend or something, but they still play the BWAM sound effect. It was like, they did that one time in the movie, and I was just like, oh, come on! I didn't shout that in the theater because I didn't want to be asked to leave, but I was pretty close to. I was pretty close to. And it relies on another big cliche for monster movies and horror movies where the characters just go online to look shit up. It's because, you know, there's no other way they could find out this information except for Googling it or going on the Slender Man Wikia page. I doubt that has anything to do with the video games or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, why have them go be more investigative when you could just have them go to the library and Google it? So the way the Slender Man attacks people is that he gets inside their heads, he makes them feel like they're in the room with them, that the world is just shifting and getting all creepy and shit. You know, he terrorizes them, screams, makes it look like they're choking themselves, and then of course we find out it's all just in their heads. But this is one of my bigger problems with the movie, because all the main characters, the ones that, you know, don't go missing, they get attacked by the Slender Man in very public places. You know, we see in these visions that they're running down hallways, they're screaming at the top of their lungs, they're freaking out, they're choking themselves, and we find out it all happened in these public places, but their parents don't get involved, like at all. Like, none of these girls are sent in for psychic evaluation, like, none of that. I mean, if I was a parent and my child was found freaking out in a public library about a creepy monster with no face, I'd be like, you've been watching the Slender Man movie again, you're grounded, and also we're taking you to the shrink, get in the damn car. That's another thing, where the hell were the parents in this movie? The only real parent that we see are this one girl who runs track. We see him for like a scene, and then the dad of the girl that goes missing, he's just this fat drunk dude that's in there for 2 scenes, and we never see him again. But it's like, why are these teenage girls just running around with no caring parents? Like, at all. As I was watching the movie, I was kind of having this feeling of, you know, I'm not quite sure how I feel about this just yet, you know, it's like, it's not really great, but I'm not sure if it's, you know, really awful. I have that feeling with a lot of movies I watch. I was like, okay, maybe the ending could beef things up a little bit, maybe the ending can improve things a bit. So I was like, okay, so they go into the woods, there's this big final confrontation with the Slender Man, for lack of better terms, and this one girl succumbs to the Slender Man, basically, and it has this really creepy shot. I'm not going to spoil it here for you, even though I think the trailers did, but yeah, there was just this really nice close-up shot where the girl is just being taken over by Slender Man. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, yes, okay, yes, just don't go to anything else, just end the movie right there on that shot, end it on that creepy image. It's not going to improve the movie that much, but at least we'll end on a very unsettling note. But nope. Of course, it didn't just end there. It had to cut to a wider angle, which is fine, but then it cuts to this picture of all the teenage girls are the main characters, and, you know, typically I like horror movie endings where things don't work out for the main characters. I think it's a nice change of pace from regular films, but here it's just, it doesn't make any sense, because it tries to make it about this whole other character, and this is like her story about these people, and then it just cuts like this one shot of a high school, and it's just like, it's trying to make this movie feel like something that it's not, and it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, why would you not end on this really creepy shot instead of just throwing this other thing about, oh, my sister and her friends summoned the Slendy Boy, and that's how he gets in your head. He's everywhere. Now here's a shot of a high school, but I'm not anywhere in this shot, so don't even try looking for me. The end, you douchebags. I think this movie could have really benefited from taking a few pages out of Nightmare on Elm Street's book, because the story in Nightmare on Elm Street could be easily applied to something like this. You know, in that movie you got Freddy Krueger, this mythical urban legend type character that people are afraid of, but they're like, oh no, he's not real. But then the main characters, they find out he's very real, but only they can see him, so the parents get concerned, they take the main character for psychic evaluation, they prepare for one final showdown, and we think everything's okay, but then nope, he's still out there. All they had to do for Slender Man was basically take that and apply it to this movie. Just make it that the Slender Man, maybe some of the adults, maybe they've encountered Slender Man before, but they managed to escape, or maybe one of the parents is like secretly under his control. I don't know. I'm not a professional screenwriter or anything, but it just seems like if you just ripped off a Freddy Krueger movie, you could have made this at least a little bit more coherent and actually have something mildly more interesting than what you have here. Yeah, this movie sucked. So all in all, Slender Man had potential, and the movie squandered all of it. You had some okay cinematography, some okay performances. The Slender Man himself looked cool and all, but ultimately, it was super boring. It was just an endless stream of these girls getting terrorized. There's no real story here. It just stops dead in its tracks. There's so much of it. So honestly, if you want to see just something really creepy with the Slender Man character, there are several really well-made YouTube documentaries about it, so just go check out one of those. You'll be a lot more satisfied with those. So, those are my thoughts on Slender Man. If you guys have seen the movie, and if you have, I'm really sorry. Notice it down below, and we'll see you on the Brockopp side.